just about to start. In 30 minutes, they will move this body down 19th Street to the medical examiner's office. Let's take you to Sky 10 so you can see a better idea of the route here. It's about a block away. They will basically move down 19th Street with a human line, creating the process to get there. And then they will make a left on 10th Avenue to where the medical examiner's office is on 20th Street. Now, let's take you to some photos of the man they're honoring, Cesar Echeverri. He passed away Wednesday night. Now, we learned a little bit about him. We know that he was a fiance. He was getting married soon. A brother, a son, graduated from FIU. He loved bikes and baseball. We learned that he was loved by many and that he loved his job as a detective over at Miami-Dade Police. And now this all started with a robbery that turned to a shootout, and then he held on for 2 long days after he got shot, and he succumbed to his injuries. Now this law enforcement community is here with heavy hearts. Let's take you back out live so you can see. Just look at them one by one as they wait for this man's body, their fallen officer, to be brought out and moved to the medical examiner's office. And this is just the first of many steps before the funeral arrangements. Now, again, this starts in about 10 minutes. We will be here live, making sure you can see every moment as we go. But for now, I'm in Miami. Annalise Garcia, stay with us. We'll be right back.
We are breaking into your normally scheduled programming to bring you breaking news following the death of Miami-Dade officer Cesar Echeverri that happened earlier this week.
Sky 10 right now over that scene at Jackson Memorial Hospital. Officials are preparing to move that fallen officer's body from the hospital over to the medical examiner's office. And you can see the overwhelming show of support from his fellow officers in the Miami-Dade Police Department, and really from officers from agencies all across the region.
Shoulder to shoulder, standing one by one. It is a powerful picture to bring you this morning. Many of those officers, detectives, all kinds of civil servants standing there for hours all week long, and especially this morning. We are going to have live team coverage for you here at Local 10. We have reporters spread out on all certain points of this route. We have Annalise Garcia at JMH. We have Trent Eric. He is at the medical examiner's office. We also have Syra Anwar. She is at a high vantage point where you can look down below and see this procession as it passes by. We're going to bring you some powerful pictures and some moving stories about this man that we have lost way too soon. As we begin our coverage at 10 a.m., let's first go to Annalise Garcia. She is right at the location you're looking at this moment at Jackson Memorial Hospital, where so many of Etchy's colleagues, friends, and family have been stationed there since earlier in this week.
JC, Eric, a very powerful feeling out here right now as we watch them line up and wait to begin this procession that's supposed to be starting in the next few minutes. Let's show you what we're seeing here so you can take a look for yourself. You saw this from Sky 10, now you're taking a look at it from the ground. You can see these officers standing one by one, their arms crossed, ready to go, ready to move this man's body here from the diagnostic center at Jackson Memorial Hospital to the medical examiner's office. They will move down 19th Street in a human line and escort this man's body, their fallen officer, their brother in blue, to the medical examiner's office. Now, this man that they are honoring, Cesar Etchy Echaverri, he was a brother, he was a son, he was a fiance, and his family members are amongst these officers here as well. Earlier we did see the director who's amongst this group as well, and you maybe won't be able to see him because he's not in his Class A uniform, he's just in regular uniform like the rest of them. Now, again, the plan is to start in just a few minutes. They will jump onto their motorcycles here, some of them in their police vehicles. You can see an ambulance further down the line, and what I'm hearing is that they plan to put his body inside that ambulance and escort it all the way down to the medical examiner's office, which is about 1 block away. Now, again, heavy hearts here. You can see it being here. Obviously, you can feel it. Very powerful here moment. Again, we did lose this man way too young. He was in his late 20s, about to get married. Now, again, we will be live here showing you what is going on as soon as it starts. So for now, I'm live in Miami. Annalise Garcia, Local 10 News.
Okay, Annalise, we'll check back with you in just a moment. Let's go to the end of the route where this officer's body will wind up this morning. That is at the medical examiner's office. Logistically, it is not so far away. It is really just about a half a mile, the route that they're going to take to the medical examiner's office from Jackson Memorial Hospital. We have our own Trent Kelly. He is live there at the ME's office with what we were expected to see. Trent.
That's right, Eric. I'm standing by just off camera here so we can show you a lot of these moving images that we are seeing right now. Just as Syra was earlier, we are also perched above this processional route right now, right along Northwest 10th Avenue. And as you mentioned, this is sort of the tail end of this processional route. If you take a look around here, you can see all of the law enforcement personnel that have now gathered here right on the side of the road. Northwest 10th Avenue, of course, is the street that leads to the Dade County Medical Examiner's office. And for anyone who's familiar with this area, right across from there, you have Jackson Memorial Hospital where this procession is beginning. We've been positioned here above the route for about the last hour or so. And since then, we have steadily started to see more and more law enforcement officers and other uniformed personnel gathering here along the tail end of the route. One striking thing I want to point out to you, if we can, is just to show you the line of officers that are lining both sides of the street here. Again, this is Northwest 10th Avenue. If you take a look on one side of the street, you'll see a lot of officers
we're going to
wearing blue
interrupt
or
you
those.
for just a moment. Trent,
Okay.
We're going to check back with you, obviously, as this procession continues. But we want to return to Annalise Garcia. You can see many of those officers there. Some are saluting. Many have their hands over their hearts. We understand they have started the process of moving the body into that fire rescue vehicle that was stationed just outside the front doors.
Let's just give it a moment and watch it as it happens.
A moving scene as they close the doors of that Miami-Dade fire rescue vehicle, the flag-draped casket of one of our young heroes here in South Florida. 29-year-old Cesar Echeverri will begin the long but short route to the medical examiner's office. No one moving a muscle except to salute him, and silence from his colleagues as they mourn the loss of one of their real beloved members of their law enforcement community.
Watching with our vantage point from above, quite emotional. You could really feel the pain that we're all suffering together as a community, but especially those law enforcement officers who are colleagues, friends, and family of Etchie. But when they closed the doors on that ambulance, that was such finality for those of us who have been following this horrible story since Monday night, when Etchie, 29-year-old robbery detective, was first put on that ventilator at JMH and was on life support for 2 days before finally losing his life on Wednesday. And we've been waiting for this day to come to say goodbye to somebody who served all of South Florida with such dignity and duty. And this was a horrible situation gone wrong with a robbery which turned into a shootout. And we know this officer, loved by so many, known for his jovial nature, joking around with his friends and colleagues. Annalise has taught us that he loved bikes, he loved baseball, and was far too young, 29 years old. And we haven't even lost a Miami-Dade officer since 2011. And that really was something that touched me as well. We do know that the detective will receive full honors during a memorial service that we're sure to hear about in the coming days. We have not heard just yet. The family's keeping that close to heart for now. And also, Detective Echeverri his name will be etched into the wall at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Now, we do see police funeral escorts. This is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. This is a very short journey from the facility there at Jackson Memorial Hospital to the medical examiner's office. And we do understand we're going to see several officers on foot making this walk with their colleague, with their fallen brother. And I think that is what you're starting to see as some of those officers start to make their way down to the motorcycles that are parked just behind our own Annalise Garcia. Let's check back in with Annalise right now. What are you seeing from your vantage point, Annalise?
Well, right now you can see that they are getting ready to mount their motorcycles here. We just saw the honor guard walk past us. As you saw moments ago, they just put his body into that ambulance that you're seeing there, that Miami-Dade fire rescue vehicle. And now the officers will start to get ready to create this human line down 19th Street, which is where we're standing. You can see them getting ready to get on. It's probably about to get a little loud here with all the motorcycles, but still the officers in a distance just standing, staring at that ambulance where his body lies, where their brother lies. Again, you said it earlier, you know, his life was lost way too early, and he was part of a very special detail, in a very dangerous detail in the Miami-Dade Police Department, and he did lose his life in the line of duty. You're seeing right now officers with heavy, heavy hearts. They're getting ready to escort his body, like you said, just about a quarter of a mile away, and it is a quick walk because we just walked from there, but it will be long for most of the people out here, the officers, the family, everyone involved, officers from all over the county. So you're seeing, again, these officers right in front of us getting ready to jump on their bikes and be part of this procession. They will be part of the motorcade, and then the officers that you see standing around will continue to walk by them. This van right in front of us is the honor guard we just saw pass by, but you'll see when they will drive by that it says the Miami-Dade honor guard next to it, or on the vehicle. So again, this is a heavy moment. You see these officers standing by their motorcycles getting ready for the next move. As soon as that ambulance starts to move, this will look a little bit different. But right now, you see them still silent, staring, and just waiting to move his body to the next place it needs to be. But I'll take it back to you guys.
Annalise, thank you. We're watching from above on Sky 10. You can see all those officers lined up. Wow. We are seeing so many of our leaders in law enforcement paying their final respects to one of their own. Just watching these pictures just really brings out the emotion of what we are saying goodbye to today and what we are dealing with in losing a detective who was just on a robbery detail in Liberty City on Monday night when things turned into a shootout and a car chase. Also, just a reminder for those of you maybe just tuning in for the first time and you're watching our coverage right now of this procession, we can also tell you that along with losing this Miami-Dade police officer, the suspect was killed in that shootout as well. Jeremy Horton, 32 years old, killed in that gunfire during the robbery intervention detail that Detective Etchie was a part of for 2 years. He was in that elite robbery unit, but overall, he was a 5-year veteran of the force.
To give you an idea of what their route will look like, they will head outside of Jackson Memorial Hospital, turn down Northwest 19th Street. That is approximately where Annalise Garcia is. They will make their way up to Northwest 20th Street and then head east until they get to Northwest 10th Street, where they'll come back down, ending eventually at the medical examiner's office. Along the way, we do expect to see officers from, again, agencies all across the region and maybe even from across the state standing vigil, watching as their fallen colleague passes by in that ambulance. They also, right before they get to the medical examiner's office, will pass under an enormous flag that is being hoisted between the ladders of 2 Miami-Dade fire rescue trucks. As you see, the motorcycles, they've got their flashers on. They will begin to lead this journey. We have Trent Kelly. He is live there at the medical examiner's office. Trent, we'll go back to you for a little bit more about what you are expecting to see there.
Well, Eric, as I was mentioning earlier, right where we are positioned, we are just down the street from the medical examiner's office. This really is...
Okay, we're going to get Trent's microphone issue corrected there. We're going to have coverage for you as long as this takes. We're not quite sure how long it's going to go, but we're going to continue to maintain the utmost in honoring this fallen officer, this member of our community, this 29-year-old young man, not only at the beginning of his police career, but at the beginning of a long life, who died doing what he loved to do, died serving this community and doing his best to keep us safe. You can see those motorcycles have journeyed out to begin this procession. At the midway point here of where they're headed, we have our Syra Onwer. She has a different vantage point, a little more elevated. She's got a bird's eye view of what things look like in that area. Syra, what are you seeing?
And Eric, we are focused on an intersection that this procession is going to cross through. I'll give you a closer look at what we're seeing right now. We're at 10th Avenue and 20th Street. Again, the body is going to process through this street. It's going to turn from 20th Street onto 10th Avenue, where it's going to head south down here past all of these officers on their motorcycles, past the flag to the medical examiner's office. Let me show you what we're seeing right now. We're seeing we're actually going to take you to Sky 10 right now so you can see Officer Echeverry's body being moved along this procession route around Jackson Memorial Hospital, close to Miami-Dade College's medical campus is where this procession is going through. What you're watching again right now from Sky 10 is this fallen officer's body on the move through this procession, where it will ultimately end up at the medical examiner's office, which, like Annalise and Trent have been saying, distance-wise is not far. The 2 points are not far from one another, but this is a slow, somber procession, so unclear how long it will take, but we've got multiple vantage points of this procession. We're seeing officers from several jurisdictions. We're seeing that if you can take our angle right now, we're seeing the motorcycles come through this corner again from 20th Street to Northwest 10th Avenue. These appear to be Miami-Dade police officers on motorcycles coming through. You're seeing them approach that big flag right now, passing several officers from multiple jurisdictions across Miami-Dade County. There may be officers from jurisdictions outside the county too. It's hard to tell from our vantage point, but we're seeing, again, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue also out here. Miami-Dade's helicopters also flying above. We've got Sky 10's view also. So we've seen the first part of the procession come through our area, again, turning from Northwest 20th Street onto Northwest 10th Avenue, where it is heading south to the medical examiner's office, which is the final point of this procession from Jackson Memorial Hospital, where Officer Echevarri's body was just removed from. You saw Annalise showing us that earlier. So you can see this procession is on the move. We've got mounted patrol out here. They're going to have full honors out here. We're seeing several officers with rifles, all part of today's ceremony. So on the ground here again, we're seeing several officers on motorcycles lining the procession. The officers on motorcycles that were on the move, they've since passed our vantage point, but more, I think we're going to see more coming through this intersection. The body hasn't approached our intersection yet of the fallen officer Echevarri, but we're seeing just a really somber mood out here. A lot of officers, a lot of Officer Etche's brothers just here to pay their respects and here to see this procession. We're seeing salutes now. If you can take our shot from above here, all of the officers on the ground just started saluting. Some people, it appears to be civilians behind them, have their hands on their hearts. It looks like Officer Etche's body may be processing through our area right now. You're seeing the motorcade come through. Miami-Dade officers on those motorcycles there, followed by a Miami-Dade police vehicle. Again, this is coming south down Northwest 10th Avenue. They're heading toward the medical examiner's office, which is the final point of this procession. Right now it's...
Syra, they are approaching...
Go ahead, Eric.
They're approaching where our own Trent Kelly is. Wow. Stop for a moment here because that is a powerful scene. All those officers lined up, motorcycle lights flashing, passing under that massive flag. You can see the lower parts of the ladders from those Miami-Dade Fire Rescue trucks hoisted just above the vantage point, just outside the frame, is that massive American flag, where Officer Echevarri's body will pass under. There it is. Will pass under, making that final turn to the medical examiner's office.
This is a moment where you just have to take in exactly what this means to all of us. It's such a sad day for South Florida, but to see everybody turning out, hands over their heart, either their hands up to their forehead in salute, lights on, people lined shoulder to shoulder, horse to horse, motorcycle to motorcycle. There's the civilians Syra was just speaking of, just stopping to take a moment of their day to say thank you to this man who gave his life, his bravery, his sacrifice, trying to protect South Florida, just doing his job as he always did at such a young age, giving so much to so many of us that don't even realize. And this is the moment where everybody gets to say their goodbyes in the most respectful way possible. This is something we really just want to show you and see these pictures and see these videos together, because this is not something we have done in more than a decade.
Let's check in with Trent Kelly. Trent is on the ground there, not far from where this procession has made its turn. Trent, what do you see?
Well, Eric, we just observed the vehicle carrying the fallen officer's body turning into the medical examiner's office here. In fact, you can see some of the other vans and other police vehicles here now slowly starting to file past the medical examiner's office. But if you take a look just in the back there, in that sort of back parking lot, we are seeing some members of the honor guard here as well, ready to receive the fallen officer's body as it arrives here at the Miami-Dade medical examiner's office. One thing I did note earlier, obviously the silence out here as the fallen officer's body was coming through. As soon as those vehicles rounded the corner here, you immediately saw every single officer here in uniform immediately start to salute, and it really was a very slow and somber procession here as it made its way into the Miami-Dade medical examiner's office. As we were taking a look, though, at that line of vehicles, I want to point out just exactly who is taking part here. There's a lot of vehicles that are part of this procession. Obviously, you've got the ambulance up front that was carrying the officer's body to the medical examiner's office, but you've also got several other marked police vehicles vehicles that were there as well. The police director, Freddie Ramirez, is here. He was riding in one vehicle, we're told. The police department's deputy director and commander riding in another vehicle. That's as well as the mayor of Miami-Dade County, who was also riding in that procession at one point. You may have noticed those unmarked vans as well. According to what we've been told by officials, those vans were carrying members of the fallen officer's family. Obviously, they've been very instrumental in planning this entire procession. The police department has been deferring to them to make a lot of the decisions about how they want to proceed here for this procession. And up until this point, they have asked for privacy here. So several members of officers Etche's family in those unmarked vans that, as we mentioned, have just arrived here at the medical examiner's office. That ambulance now parked behind the medical examiner's office. We were told earlier that several officers would be forming a line of sorts to sort of not only pay their respects, but sort of give the officer and his family their privacy as they go through this very, very moving experience here. So one other thing I want to point out is all of the agencies that are out here. This is not just Miami-Dade Police. We've been telling you all morning long, hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 law enforcement officers expected to take part here. I did notice earlier on one side of the street here along Northwest 10th Avenue, you've got several City of Miami officers. They're wearing those dark colored or those blue uniforms. Several motormen lined up there as well. But just across the street, you will see officers wearing those other uniforms. Those are Miami-Dade police officers, members of the department that Officer Etche worked for, and scattered among them are several red shirts, members of the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue Department here as well, who of course set up this very moving scene involving the American flag right over.
Okay, it looks like we've lost Trent Kelly, who is live right there at the medical examiner's office. We can see from this Sky 10 view right now, as the police officers pull away from that scene right there on the motorcycles, that motorcade leaving the ME office right there in downtown Miami, and you can see the ambulance left right there with Etche's body, which will be removed and brought inside. That was the scene we showed you at Jackson Memorial Hospital with the casket covered with the American flag. So now this is the end of the road for this officer's procession.
Miami-Dade Police Department describing him as a young man who loved cafecito, liked to bike in Virginia Key, loved to make memories, who loved his life. And we mourn the loss of 29-year-old Detective Cesar Echeverri this morning. We certainly offer our condolences to his family and to the Miami-Dade Police Department and all those who are suffering the loss of this officer. We will continue to bring you the very latest updates all throughout the day, and certainly in the days and weeks to come, as we learn more about him, as we learn more about possible funeral arrangements and whether or not that is something that the public will be invited to. We will let you know, because you too share in this grief that the South Florida community is experiencing.
Yes, we'll be in contact with the family to find out what their wishes are as Etche is laid to rest. You will not miss anything right here on Local 10. We'll continue to follow the end of this journey for the detective that we have lost in South Florida. Right now, we're going to return you to regularly scheduled programming here on Local 10, but if you'd like to continue to follow everything happening with this procession and the goodbyes to Detective Cesar Echeverri, please tune to local10.com.
This has been a breaking news alert from Local 10 News. For continuing coverage, log on to local10.com. We now join regularly scheduled programming already in progress.